just want basic rights. We are being killed.
Just the fact that racism is so bad in the United States.
It's a matter of death, brutality, and unrelenting slaughter.
This country was built on white supremacy, and we're here to fucking tear it down.
It's been going on for too long, and we need to start seeing change.
Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter!
George Floyd's death was shocking to a lot of people, but within the African American community, within the Black community, it was something that we have known about for a very long time, with police officers using excessive force against unarmed Black people, specifically unarmed Black men. But to have that footage so clear, and for the police officer to ignore his pleas and his cries was something that set the whole world on fire.
I never really saw the video footage of him being murdered. I refused to look at it. I honestly refused to look at it.
It's one thing to know something happens and somebody tells you about it, and it's another thing to have a government sanctioned 9-minute snuff film.
As a mother, I would hate to have to be the one to see my son and his last words, he cried out mama in the end. So when I heard that, I said, I don't think I want to watch that. I don't want to see that.
When I saw the footage of George Floyd dying, I was beside myself.
I felt demoralizing when I saw the footage because it just came full circle that we as Black people are not respected, we are not loved, we are actually hated in this country and this world.
Black men are targeted as aggressors in situations, even in situations where they call the police, they are seen as not the victim, even when they are, and they are killed just for being Black.
It was horrifying. It was just horrifying.
So it was demoralizing to see it, and it was angering to see it because of his bombastic kind of callous attitude to what he was doing.
We all witness globally. This is not just something that was in America. We all witness globally a police officer take his knee and press it onto the neck of an unarmed Black man while he begged for his life, while he told people he couldn't breathe. And we all witnessed a murder. And the world said not anymore. And the entire globe came together and protested this atrocity. I wanted to give a voice to the people that were there, and I live streamed all of it. I knew I had a platform. I knew I had the ability to reach thousands of people, which I did, and show them what was actually going on in the streets of DC during this time. And I asked people why they were there, why they chose to come out in the middle of the nation's capital to protest this atrocity that happened. And I wanted to capture that raw emotion. I wanted to capture what people really felt, what they saw.
So why is it so important for you to be out here today?
I have 2 brothers, I have cousins, I've got a lot of men in my family. I'm scared about them every day. Every day they walk out the door, I'm terrified.
Because Black Lives Matter. At the end of the day, they killing our people. Nobody ain't gonna stand for something, we stand for this.
There are 2 viruses going around in this country today. Obviously, there's the virus of the coronavirus, but that is a new virus that has emerged within the past couple months. A virus that has been a stain since the beginning of this country has been the virus of white supremacy in its explicit forms, as we see time and time again. Too often, Black lives disposed of through the form of police brutality, police murder, police assassination, extrajudicial killings. 99% of cops walking away scot-free. That is unacceptable, but visceral, performative violence towards black life is not the only form of this white supremacist virus. It is also institutional, it is structural, it is systematic, it is systemic, and it needs to go.
Okay, because there's so much injustice going on against black people. We have 400 years of oppression. It's time that it stopped and everything be equal opportunity.
To show my support for what I believe in.
We're fed up. And as you can see, we have others supporting us that's not my skin color. So at the point, we're seeing way too many black lives and black blood shed for costless reasons. And it's happening over and over again. And this was made in 2014. I'm able to bring this in 2020, and that is a very big problem with me. I just graduated college 24 days ago. And for me to have to be here right now instead of celebrating, that's a very big issue with me. It's time for a change, and that's why I'm here.
I chose to go to the protest because I am a black person, and I oftentimes, when I'm stopped by police, I question why I am stopped, and my questioning of a police officer at any time could cause me to end up in a situation where, like George Floyd being detained. So I was representing myself being at the protest.
I went to the protest because I wanted to show unity. I wanted to show black people that I hear them, I see them, I want to fight with them. I want them to gain power, and the systemic racism needs to stop. It was important for me to be there at the protest because I wanted my voice heard. I wanted change for the black community. We're not going to be able to rest until black lives do matter. My daughters are black, my husband is black, and I needed to be the voice, and I want to be the change, and we need change. And in order for us to get the change we need to be out there and have our voice heard.
When George Floyd was murdered, just people erupted on the street in so many different protests. You could literally walk down the street and join a protest and run into another protest and join it in order to get home, you know? And it felt like there was a collective that existed beyond anything I've experienced before. And it felt like it could be the beginning of a revolution of sorts.
Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Black lives matter! 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 Not one more! 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 No peace! No peace! No peace! No peace! No peace! Justice!
George Floyd, when I hear about what happened, I just get chills. It's so sad. So it's so important for everyone who supports their fellow Americans to be here today, to support not only black lives, but all lives, but specifically black lives.
I can't talk. He can't talk, guys. But thank you for being here. I hear gas from yesterday. He got in my throat. So he was tear gassed yesterday. It got in his throat, and he's unable to speak today. But I want to thank you for being out here. Thank you. I
believe the gospel is one of justice. It's if there's the one thing that Jesus consistently says, it's to care for the poor, to care for all people. And what's happening in our country, has happened since time immemorial, it's wrong, and good people have to stand up and speak out.
I didn't fight for what the military did last night, but again, I think white people have had their voices disproportionately heard. you should go speak to some people of color.
Spread the message. If you cannot come, my father just had 2 very major heart surgeries less than 3 months ago. I didn't want to be here because I didn't want to risk bringing a virus back into my house. But at the end of the day, I see my people, they risking their lives for what I believe in. So you know that I'm going to come and I'm going to stand up for what's right.
Today because an innocent man was killed and he didn't get his justice.
Multiple people.
And multiple people are getting killed almost every day, and nobody has the balls to really fight the cops, but they're the ones doing this. We are peaceful protesting, but they're the ones inciting the violence. We are not the ones looting. It is the white supremacists. It is the police. It is not us. We are only here to fight for justice.
The killing of an unarmed black man in America did not shock me, sadly.
We live in the United States where the black man has been a target of abuse, murder, lynching. So I'm not surprised. And I'm from an area where, this is not new. It's not news.
I think the killing of an unarmed black man is not particularly shocking, but as, a middle-aged white lady named Karen, I think there was only so much that I could understand. Like I said, beyond words, beyond emotion, beyond shock, probably.
Well, yeah, the violence against black men, especially with the police force, is not something new. I was born in the '60s, and as television, in reality, in the neighborhood, on the news, police officers killing blacks, unarmed blacks, is nothing that's new. It's a common situation.
George Floyd! George Floyd! George Floyd! George Floyd! Get off my neck! 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 I can't breathe! I can't breathe! I can't breathe! I can't breathe! Breonna Taylor! Breonna Taylor! Breonna Taylor! Breonna Taylor! I can't breathe! 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 Take on me! 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 Peace! No racist ass police! Yes, sir! No peace! Racist ass police! No peace! Police!
Guys, see back there? They're ready to come in.
Say his name! George Floyd! 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 George Floyd!
We do have National Guard members taking a knee.
You right, come on, man. You right.
They're coming in now.
Most of the times the police took their stand because they knew that they were in opposition. So they would just keep their stance and not, just look straight and ignore all of the, berating from the crowd. It was, I really was fearful for the police officers because we can't lump all police officers in one category. So the police officers, whenever I saw them, they were more so like just trying to hold their ground and doing their job and just praying that they don't get hurt. So they weren't, in the riot situations, they were more so on the defensive because they didn't know what to expect.
So what can you and other good cops do on that side of the badge?
You know what I would say?
We're not going to get no fuck.
Just hold each other more accountable, right? Like, do I have the idea of what that is? I really don't, right? I don't have like some super game plan as to like what you implement you know what I mean, to make sure that we hold each other accountable, right? This here is on the fly, right? Because if you don't know, y'all really not supposed to be right here. There was a bike rack back there, right? So I didn't think I was going to be having this conversation today, right? Yeah, somebody tore it over, right? But that's the least of my worries, right? That's the least of my worries. More so what I'm saying is a lot of the stuff that I do because I don't have the answers is just on the fly. It's just hard. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't gonna lie. When I heard it was 3,000 people coming today, me personally, this does not mean that I don't care about black people. I just was scared as hell. Because the day before, I'm getting spit on and kicked on and taking bricks and all that other stuff. Not that I'm mad, right? Because I even convinced my other officers that I'm not mad, right? Because I understand. Are some officers mad? I'm sure they are. I really don't know. I haven't really had the time to sit down and ask, right? Because this kind of been.
Say it's a bad barrel instead of a few bad apples.
Make it make sense.
What I say, it's a bad barrel?
The only thing that's different.
So listen, just like bad officers are hitting the y'all, right? There's somebody over here right now, and use this as like an analogy. I'm not saying there's bad officers over here, but they hide from me too, right? Because now I'm letting myself out. They see I'm talking to you now, right? I'm not like this, right? This ain't me right here, right? That's not what I'm doing, right? This is me right here. So somebody with big brass over there sees that, right? So if they're the type of racist cop, you think they're gonna show me that? You think it's gonna be easy for me to be able to show that? You know what I mean? So to answer your question, that's just something that I have to wake up to every day and figure out. What can I do on this side since I am on this side, right? And what can I do to make a difference, right? Now, I don't have that answer, though. If I had the answer, I would be probably trying to implement it, right, or convincing other people. But I really don't. I don't, right? Because I can't be in Minneapolis, right? So what do I do from D.C. to help Minneapolis? And all I can do is say just kind of like poison, right? Not in a negative way, but if you just drop that 1 ounce of poison in the water, maybe it will spread to everybody, right? And maybe if they, I don't know if y'all seen, did y'all see in New Jersey, they had cops like marching, right? So maybe if more people start to do that, other cops might get scared, right? And feel bullied. Right? And even if they are racist, maybe they just won't act on it. Right? So that's the only way that I could really answer that question. I really don't have that concrete, like, hey, this is step A, B, and C, right? You know, my idea has always been to raise amongst the ranks, right? Like, because I'm only an officer right now, so only so many people gonna listen to me, right? I only got but so much power, right? I know everybody thinks like, oh, you the police, that's not really how it works, right? But maybe once I become a sergeant or a lieutenant or a captain, right? And maybe if I run a whole department, then when I'm at the top, right, I can start to weed out the bad apples or the bad barrel that we talk about.
How does that make sense? Make it make sense.
Unless we do this, where's the awareness? Because our enemy is a spirit.
So do you think if there's more people of color who join the force, they'll start changing things on the inside?
I want to see if he's going to do it. I want to see if he's a man of his word. So everybody can see that.
For you to be able to police your own communities. For example, I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, right? Baltimore County specifically, but I understand the jurisdiction of Baltimore, right? If you got people from, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Maryland, but if you got people from Harford County and all these other counties coming to police Baltimore City and Baltimore County, right? That's like, to me, we need to police our own community, right? And that's, so to me, I try not to make it a race thing. It is a race thing, obviously, right? Blacks are dying at very much higher numbers from white officers than the rest of the community, right? But to me, yeah, if you want to see that change and you want to be that change, start being a prosecutor, start being a police officer, start being a teacher, right? Start being that figure that's monumental in society, right? Because then you're actually doing the change, right? Like, you don't look at it like that, and that's fine if you don't. It's not, right? But to answer your question, yeah, maybe if more African Americans started joining, maybe it would be different, right? Because for every African American that's taking a spot, there's not a racist white cop that can take a spot, right? You guys say. Now I'm on camera, so I gotta be careful. I'm not saying all white cops are racist, right? Y'all can say that if you want. If you want to say that, that's fine, right? I have white cop friends that are not racist, right? But there are some that are racist, right? And to me, races don't carry a color, right? Because I'm sure there could be African Americans or any other race that will treat you just like they do because now they're a part of this system and this group and this fraternity, if you want to call it like that. Right?
A black person cannot be racist.
Yes, ma'am.
You give me a bigot and you give me prejudice.
So what I mean by blacks being racist is not necessarily that, more so just that they can do harm too, right? It's not the color of your skin that creates the harm. I can go out right now and put my knee on somebody's neck just like me. So I wasn't trying to make it a battle of who's racist versus who's not racist. I really don't want to battle with y'all. I'm just talking to y'all because that's what I've been seeing on Instagram that people want to do, right? You want to talk?
That's a fact.
All right then, so I'm talking. Now, granted, I might be a little more comfortable because I'm black. I don't know if a white guy come up here, you know, what would have happened at that point, but, you know, that's not the only time that I talk. When I take this uniform off, I still talk, right? I still teach you and try to educate you about how this side over here works and how this side over here thinks and how to protect your sons and daughters. Is it something that I'm comfortable with? No, right? But I want your son and daughter to come home at night. You know what I mean? So that's the goal at the end of the day, is to keep y'all alive, whether it means I got to die for you or educate you and tell you things that you don't want to hear, right? Because we all agree around the country and around the world. I just seen some protests in UK that the system messed up, and it been like that. The only difference is we got Instagram, right? If you ask your mother and your father, they've been through the same exact thing. Now we just got 100 cameras. See, back in the 60s and 70s, you ain't have all these cameras at the White House, so nobody knew what was happening. Now we just filming it more, right? I don't think it just came out of nowhere.
Fucking animal! No peace! No justice! No peace! No peace! You're gonna fucking run and hell, you piece of fucking shit! You fucking no justice! No justice!
You got the right to be pissed. I get it.
Racism doesn't begin with police brutality. Someone raised police. It was in the schools, it was in homes. You have neighbors, you have friends, you know of teachers who are raising and teaching racism in homes and schools. Talk to your neighbors, y'all. Get out there and take a stand and affirm every single day and everything you do that Black Lives Matter. If you don't know how to do that, connect with someone. Doesn't have to be an organization like One Village Alliance. It can be people right in your own community. Don't just not be a racist, but be anti-racist. Be human. Tap into your humanity like the nation and the world is doing right now. This is an uprising.
Much of my life I had thought, okay, so yeah, there's racism, there's patriarchy, there's white supremacy, there's misogyny, there's homophobia, there's, you know, all these things. And I had thought for a time that if we just got all women or all non-men together on the same page, that we could kind of take over the world and fix everything. And then I began to understand, you know, after Trump was elected, why that's not possible, because you have to start in the place of the most threat and the place of the most egregious human rights violations. You have to start there so that you can collectively empower the people who are most danger, which in our world is probably, you know, Black trans women, you know. So then little by little I started to understand more, and as these protests were happening, I realized that Black Lives Matter is a basic fundamental fact that now people want to justify and argue with, and it made no sense to me. But that also, that's the place we have to start, because if we can make it so that Black Lives Matter, then we have enough people to address every other every other thing. I don't know.
No peace! No peace! No peace! No peace! No peace! Everybody take a knee right now! Everybody take a knee right now! Everybody take a knee right now! Everybody take a knee! Everybody take a knee!
Everybody down on one knee.
I think that the protest started an uncomfortable conversation. There was councilmen there, the mayor's brother was there. The entire time that Floyd was passing away, the 8 minutes and I believe 54 seconds, we stopped and it was silent, and it brought together community, and I feel like it was important.
When people go out and protest, they're just reminding the world that you do have a voice, you do have a say-so. So all those people who were afraid to speak up, you know, protesters understand their role, and their role is they have the right to speak up if they, you know, and doing it together collectively as one makes it a powerful voice when you see all of these people who are non-Black saying Black Lives Matter really made Black Lives Matter, because Black lives really can't speak for themselves because they're the ones being targeted. So to have so many non-Blacks to come out during the Black Lives Matter rallies and protests was, for me, a beautiful thing to see, because just like slavery, the abolitionists have to come in, and the Quakers have to come in and help the slaves. The same thing happened during Black Lives Matter, where you had non-Blacks to come in and, you know, speak for those who could not speak for themselves.
Everybody, even those that aren't in America, saw a problem with what was happening in America. And that was a huge deal, because most things were happening in America, like Sandra Bland and Trayvon Martin, and they didn't make national news, even though it was wrong what happened to them. But then George Floyd flipped tables, and it changed the face of the Black Lives Matter community. It changed the face of the Black Lives Matter protest. It changed the face of Black Lives Matter campaign. It gave us the "we can't breathe." And it's true, because Black people can't breathe because there's always somebody on their neck. Always.
I don't think the protest accomplished what we wanted it to. It did bring a lot of people together. I was able to educate a lot of people, but I am in total agreement with Charles Blow with his New York Times article from Sunday, where he said that 2 years later, the BLM movement is fading. And I want to add that I feel that because of the uprising of the amount of people, I feel that the police seem to be more retaliatory. And I think it is just a matter of they have been angry for the past 2 years of the movement and what, with all the names that they being called and whatever. And I feel that we are just seeing the beginning of their retaliation.
So Trump put up a fence around the Lafayette Square Park, which is just outside on one of the sides of the White House, which is known as like the People's Park where people can protest. That's where the White House Anti-Nuclear Peace Vigil is. And that, as soon as he put up the fence, inspired, people in marches and stuff to throw their signs up on the fence.
Okay, so I was there from the beginning. I got there the second day of the protest, which was the Saturday the 30th. So I had been there for the majority of times. I would say I was there 5.5 days out of 7 in the beginning. And eventually the protest started to wane, like say the late part of June, and then it picked up for Juneteenth, and then it waned again, and then it picked up for July 4th. It waned again, and then it picked up in August for the March on Washington. But all that time I was there. So I would, as I said, I would spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours, according to what was going on in my life. And most of the times I wasn't working because of COVID, so I just stayed. At one point, I would just go on what I call the night shift. So most people were there in the daytime. I would get there like around 10 o'clock at night, and I stayed until 4 or 5 in the morning for a while. So I consider myself the night shift so that there would be a presence there. And then eventually Karen joined me in September when she came after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died.
Then RBG died. And when RBG died, I just kind of like personally snapped, and there weren't a lot of protests to attend anymore in New York that would let you like scream and vent. And so I all of a sudden decided that I had to go to DC because DC people were clearly tired because they had been gassed over the summer. And at some point in my head, I thought, okay, so like everyone now is going to be converging around the White House and throughout DC, everyone from all over the country, all the unemployed bartenders, all the unemployed theater people, all the unemployed, everyone is just going to converge on DC because we have to do something. And then I met this woman named Nadine.
So for that first month of September through October, somebody was there, but we weren't there saying, okay, well, we have to stay here. But come October, on October 26th, the first time it had a mass vandalism of the fence, on October 27th, we made like an informal decision that somebody is going to be here 24/7.
I just ended up staying and trying to help the Peace Vigil out third shift, and getting to know Nadine. And pretty quickly thereafter, it started with the practice runs, is what I'll call it, for the insurrection, where large groups of Trump supporters would come in and do a march and become violent and aggressive, and they escalated. And so by the end of October, Nadine and I realized that we couldn't actually leave.
So from October 27th through January 30th, 2021, there was a presence there every day for 4 months. For October to November, December, January, for 3 months, a presence every day for 3 months.
And Nadine began to care for all these signs because weather and whatnot would, make them fall off. So as I'm assisting the White House Anti-Nuclear Peace Vigil, Nadine is caring for the protest signs on the fence. This is late October now. that's when the trial runs for the insurrection started happening, and the Black Lives Matter Memorial Fence, as it became to be known, actually I think Nadine named it that, became a point of contention for them. They are inherently, that group I've watched a lot, I've interacted with a lot, and that group doesn't have a lot of imagination, so they like to show up places and destroy things. Trump supporters, white supremacists, Proud Boys, etc. And so they would want to come and tear down the signs and art that people had put up on the fence, the Black Lives Matter Memorial Fence. So not just the weather, not just the threat of the police taking it down, but now Proud Boys and insurrectionists, and at one point a group of Christians that decided they were going to destroy it because it was satanic. You know, just lots of groups would show up and try to tear things down, and Nadine and I realized we could not leave. So we ended up spending 24/7 in front of the fence. At least one of us would be there and sleeping there and staying awake there, and kind of creating an environment where community could gather and feel safe because we were always there. And that lasted until after the insurrection and inauguration. And then Nadine made the executive decision that we couldn't leave it there still. We didn't know when the fence was going to come down, and that we needed to, these voices of other people that we had spent so long protecting, she wasn't prepared just to abandon.
When we left the fence, when we were about to leave the fence after the inauguration of Biden and Harris, I thought that the museums would come and want the stuff. It turned out only 2 organizations took it, the Library of Congress and Howard University. So the rest of stuff, like 1,000 pieces plus, remained with us. And at the time when we got it, we put it in the bags and we put it into storage, not knowing what we were going to do with it, but expecting that the museums would come. But in the meantime, it happened that a young woman from the Library of Congress, somebody saw a news article, contacted her, and they put us in contact with Enoch Pratt Free Library in Baltimore.
So we got together with some archivists who helped us archive each piece individually, and they're in the process of being scanned, and some went to the Library of Congress and some went to Howard University, and there's like 1,000 pieces that'll be scanned and available online, and it is literally like the largest collection of its kind from boots on the ground that has been collected and made available to the public.
Enoch Pratt Free Library in Baltimore decided that they would use a grant that they had sitting, so they would scan high resolution scan each unique item that we had from the we call it the Black Lives Matter Memorial Fence collection. And now that Enoch Pratt decided that they were going to put it online, they found a partnership with DC Public Library. And because DC Public Library came on board with Enoch Pratt, the Library of Congress decided that they would come on board and also share the 33 pieces that they acquired. And because the 3 of them decided to be in partnership, I contacted Howard University, who had acquired like 100 pieces, and I asked them to be involved so that the comprehensive collection could be seen in one place. So come September or October of this year, after the digital scanning has been completed and the information has been inputted in metadata, the entire comprehensive collection that we were able to save, and that the pieces that were acquired by the Library of Congress and by Howard University will all be able to be seen in one place.
We're trying to go in periodically and write in the metadata when we know who made it, or if we have a story about it or something like that, for this virtual fence that will exist through DC and Maryland public libraries after they finish the scan, probably this fall.
Up to the day, I am like shocked how it occurred, because for me, all I was expecting was that the museums would come and acquire them, and they weren't going to be seen again, more than likely. Or if they was to be seen, they would be seen in probably 20 years, 30 years, possibly. So because it worked out this way, serendipity, it worked out this way that, Pratt stepped in and said, okay, well, we will do this for you because you saved it in real time. And I learned that Howard University, they accepted the pieces for preservation. They had never intended it to be for exhibition. So now that they became involved in the project, now we will see those 75 or 100 pieces that they acquired. We will be able to see it because their intentions were never to exhibit it. Surprise it, believe me, I am surprised, and I couldn't have asked for more.
And Nadine is the warrior goddess for the resistance, and I became the stage manager for the resistance.
Well, the only thing I want to say is that the movement for Black Lives, right? The Black Lives movement, we came out in 2020, we protested, we vented our anger, we vented our frustration, but I would like for it to be more than just, 2020 happened and 2020 occurred. I would like those people who came out, the white people, the Black people, the Asian people, the Mexicans for Black Lives, everybody who came out to stay in the process. Because right now I am very disheartened that we are reading that the movement is fading, and then with all the controversy that's happening with the global Black Lives Matter global, I don't want that to deter and to fade away what we accomplished by coming together in 2020. I would like for that to live on. I don't know. I am still involved, and I would like the people who were involved in 2020 to please come back out.